program.
Yeah. That's better. Do you want to push the screen more my way for me, please? No, the screen. That's it. A little bit more. Great. Perfect. Thank you. Okay. All right. At the end of last time, do you want this?
Yeah, sure, if I can.
Okay.
Oh, I thought that's what
So
you were,
let me
oh,
get
unless
it.
you.
Let me get it for you. Let's- Um,
You want?
let me just go here. Okay. Here you go. Okay. So we're in chapter 1, and what we started with last time was that Yesod HaYesodot, the very most basic establishment, Yesod HaChasidut, the very basic foundation of getting to the level of Chassid, which is that level where we do more than we're supposed to do, the Shoresh HaAvodah, and the very root of service to Hashem. What is the root of service? What is a root? What does a root do?
It grows.
It's the foundation and the part of the plant that allows it to grow. So the shoresh, the root of service of Hashem, of perfect service to Hashem, is yitamet etzel hadam, that a person has to try to bring into and make truthful for himself and know what our obligations are in this world. How should I direct what I'm looking to do and my purpose for existence in everything that I work for spiritually all the days of my life? What do I have to do? I have to try and bring myself from that measure of trying to do everything absolutely perfectly and then even going a step beyond. So that's what we want to aim for. So what we have seen, Masha Horenu, what we have seen, that Chazal, our sages, tell us is that a person, shahadam lo nivra ela leitaneg al Hashem, a person is only created to enjoy what Hashem wants us to do. Now, if you say, how are we going to enjoy that? What are we going to do to enjoy it? What do you mean by enjoying it? So let's go back to all the way the beginning of mankind. The first mitzvah that Hashem gave to Adam and Chava, to the first prototypes of humanity, was eat, taste, sample everything that there is in this garden. The garden is what's a mashal? An example, not an example. It really stands for the whole world. When Hashem created the world, what did he want us to do? Don't eat this and don't eat this and don't eat this. No, he said to Adam and Eve, Adam and Chava, sample everything from everywhere. Have some of everything and see what a beautiful world this is. What is the sampling that we have to do of everything? The sampling we have to do is not to be, and we said this last time, not to be an ascetic and say, I'm not going to do that and I'm not going to partake of that. When a person becomes a Nazarite and lets their hair grow and doesn't drink anything with wine, liquor, or grapes, the reason he's doing it is because he has a sense of everything comes from me. And he wants to get rid of that kind of a sentiment. So what does he do? He takes the opposite direction. So someone who, let's give the example, every time they pass a window has to preen. They have to look at themselves in the window and they have to preen and say, oh, it looks so good. So a person who realizes that, hang on a second, this is all egoism. This is egotistical. I have to stop. How do I stop? What do I do to stop? So usually a Nazarite is usually a man, and men at some stage in world history grew their locks very long. And the man who would be preening wherever there was a lake or a river to see what he looked like, would say to himself, you know what, this is wrong. For 10 months, I'm going to not have any wine. I'm not going to have any grapes. I'm going to make sure that I'm nowhere near anything that's going to make a spiritual blockage between myself and Hashem. I said my hair will grow, right? And at the end of the 10 months, after he has, look, it isn't that he's made himself a mess. He still looks neat, but he hasn't done all of those preparations that'll make him preen that much more. So after that amount of time is finished, what does he have to do? He has to bring a sin offering. But he's raising his level of spirituality. Why should he have to bring a sin offering? Because Hashem said, I want you to do everything in moderation. Well, if you do it, it's fine, but do it in moderation. How do we bring Shabbos or a Yontif in? What do we do when we have Shabbos and Yontif? What's the first thing that we do? After after cooking and lighting candles, and now, yes, Kiddush. What is Kiddush? Kiddush is wine. So I'm a Nazir, I'm not going to drink, I'm a Nazarite, I'm not going to drink the wine. So for that 10 months, the Nazarite doesn't drink wine. When he's finished with that period of abstaining from all of those things that are going to, it's warm in here, for all of those things that are going to make him feel that he has to keep looking at himself, because he is forsworn from that, and Hashem has said, you can have it. So therefore, when he finishes that term of whatever he's doing, he has to bring a sin offering. He has to say, you know what, I've now balanced myself, I've put myself in complete balance, and now I can have that cup of wine, and I can let the hair grow a little bit, and I can do the things that I wasn't allowing myself to do. The Rambam Maimonides says that if you have a habit that's a bad habit, you might go to the other extreme. Okay, I'll give the diet example. Okay, we want to lose 10 pounds. So Are you going to go to the other extreme and not eat anything and do a fasting diet? No, that's not going to help anything either. But you will go onto a very, very strict program. But after you've lost that weight and it's time for you to come back, then you have to put the maintenance program into your calendar, into your habit. And you have to be able to moderate what you're eating and keep that moderation. So as long as whatever we do is moderation, it's fine. But what did we do in the garden, in Gan Eden, in all those years back? Later on, the second time Hashem repeated the command, it was, but there is one plant, there is one, let's call it a tree, a plant, one thing you should not partake of. And that is the tree of life, the tree of Etz Hadat Tov Ra, the tree of knowledge of good and of its opposite. Why? Because that is going to it's going to sever connection. How is it going to sever connection? It's going to sever connection because you will have brought subjectivity into yourself. The original Adam and Chava, the original prototypes of humanity, did not have egoism. Everything was closeness to Hashem. So they didn't have to be told not to do something. Okay? But once they had put subjectivity into their makeup, and everybody in all the generations after that also have subjectivity into the makeup, now we have to be more careful. So what we're saying over here is that yes, Hashem created a world in which he wanted us to sample everything, but in moderation. How do we know how to do that moderation? The human being was created to enjoy what Hashem has put into this world, and to benefit from that closeness to, when somebody has an aura and pulls you into that aura, to enjoy being within that aura that Hashem has put into the closeness that Hashem's presence has put into the world. That is the true enjoyment. It is a true, let me give you another example. If you love numbers, right? You also a number person?
Numbers.
You're okay with numbers?
I mean, I was one time.
So when you're doing a Sudoku puzzle and you get all those answers right, how do you feel?
I get really accomplished.
Okay. You enjoy it? You feel a feeling of satisfaction? That's what we have to feel like when we enjoy mitzvahs. What is a mitzvah? And we said yes the last time also, the mitzvah is not a commandment. It is something that we use because we've been commanded. Okay, do you know, you have the difference? It's not a verb. It's not a verb. It's a vehicle that brings us, brings us closer to Hashem. And every time when you first started keeping Shabbos, and you had your long list, I had a client, a student, who said to me one day, I want to start keeping Shabbos. What do I have to do? She said, I'll make a list of all the things that I have to do before Shabbos. And sit down, and we made this list up, and every Erev Shabbos she went around the house and put these lights on and those lights on and those lights off and the
That
paper.
list.
And it's ringing a bell.
Hi, look at that, Mr. Still.
One day she said to me, when am I ever going to be able to function without my list. I said to her, don't you worry, the day will come. About a year later, she said to me, I don't need my lists anymore. So when you got to that stage, didn't you feel really good?
Yeah.
Every stage. That's what it means to enjoy the Shekhinah, to enjoy the closeness to Hashem. Hashem, you told me to keep Shabbos. You told me how to keep Shabbos. I had heard a beautiful way of expressing it. If I'm thirsty and I say to you, please would you give me a glass so I can take some water? And instead of giving me a glass, you give me a block of glass. Right?
A what?
A block of glass.
A piece of glass.
Oh. But a thick square of glass. The shape of a nice round, maybe a nice square glass, but it's a block. What can I do with it? Absolutely nothing. What do I really want? I want some glass that's been hollowed out and left room in the middle so that I can put something in. That's what we become when we get closer to Hashem. We are no longer this closed entity that thinks that we know everything, but we've opened up and we can feel that water or that closeness trickling down into us. That's what it's like. So he says that is the greatest satisfaction that any person can find. When you get to the point with whatever mitzvah it is that you take on, when you took on kashrut and you knew that you were doing it right, and you could put a meal on the table and other people could come to be with you. How good is that? But the place for the absolute joy of enjoying Hashem's presence, that comes in the world of truth, which is the world to come. Now, the world to come isn't any different from this world, except for two things. So it is different. The difference between the world to come and this world that we're in now is that in the world to come, we cannot add mitzvot to our repertoire. That's impossible. Whatever we have done, that's what we go into the world of truth with. Whatever we have not accomplished, we can no longer continue to study in order to do. That's number one.
You come in
with all your mitzvot. You're clothed in your mitzvot. And then the second thing is that you will be devoid of any physical and material desires. All you will want is to take what you have brought with you, what you can do. Okay, I gave the example of the highway last time. That if you build a transcontinental highway from the easternmost parts of Canada to the westernmost parts, including Alaska, where you've put a pontoon bridge across so that you can cross over to Alaska and want to get to Kamchatka or Kamachka, whatever it's called, right? The Russian peninsula, and then it stops. So you cannot go further into Asia. But what you can do, you've built a dinky little 2-lane highway, but you can make it bigger. That's what you can do in the world to come. So you can't add to your repertoire of mitzvot, but you can deepen and you can broaden your understanding and your ability for those mitzvot.
So all these things that we listen to and forget, we'll remember in the world to come.
Well, what you have to do is go back and review. But you will be able to have a basis there, yeah.
How do you put that in more physical, like, tangible terms? Like, it's hard, like, I'm not quite sure what you mean.
Okay, so
You can expand.
let me explain it in a different way. If you're given an assignment to read all of Shakespeare, okay, and you only get through 3/4 of it, you'll know, let's say you haven't gotten to, let's take the most famous ones. You haven't gotten to Hamlet, and you haven't gotten to Midsummer Night's Dream, and you haven't gotten to Julius Caesar, and you haven't gotten to The Tempest. So those are going to be off limits. You're not going to be able to get to them in the world to come. But all the other books and sonnets and plays that you read of his, even if you only gave it a cursory look, excuse me, even if you only gave it a cursory look, you'll be able to deepen your understanding. Because the world to come is going to be totally immaterial. Materialistically, you won't care. It's not going to be, is my house as pretty as the next person's house? Is it as big? Is it you're going to be able to have your own property and do anything you want to fix your own property, but you won't be able to buy the property next door. Marilyn, she can't take your house over. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, because
What's the time?
should be able to come back.
Yeah.
Could you get it back?
Locked.
Whoops. Sorry. Don't worry. Do not worry. Okay. There you go. All you had to do was swipe up.
Oh, okay, I didn't know.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Didn't say that.
So we said, okay, that because this is what was created as a preparation, that is, what was created for us was the ability to take our intense efforts and put our minds to understanding and using the mitzvot in order to make ourselves into that different person, going from a person who didn't keep everything to the person who keeps everything in its proper measure, and then going beyond. We're given that latent ability. Okay, we're given that latent ability. We have to make use of it. If we make use of it, then we will be able to bring it into the world to come with us. Okay? Good? But the way to get to that center of what we want to do is in this world. So it's like we explained in all those examples. We have to start it here. We have to, if we're going to, we'll give yet another example. The men, when they do the Siyum Hashas, when they finish all the tomes of the Gemara, and it takes them 7 years to do that. They've already they've got that whole learning under their belts. They might not be able to recall it now, but they're going to take that into the world to come with them. So now what do they have to do? They have to deepen it and see, what more can I do? What other books can I learn? After we learn Mesillat Yesharim, what else are we going to learn? Because we want to have that as part of our possessions. We have that ability in this world. We can pick up something new and start from scratch and own it. And once we own it, it's ours. So then, and that's what it says in Pirkei Avot. In Pirkei Avot it says, the world can be compared to a corridor. You know that expression. It's a corridor that is right before we get to the world to come. Prepare yourself in the corridor so that by the time you get into the palace, you have everything, all the laws and customs and all the details under your belt. That's what we have to do in this world. And the way that we reached that, that is the purpose for man, for mankind in this world. And they are the mitzvot. So Hashem has given us vehicles that are going to help us to bring us to that station. And the place for us to do the mitzvot is only in this world. 4 more minutes, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Therefore, a person was put into this world from the very beginning in order to use those opportunities that we were given and that were prepared for us in this world. Now, I'm not going to be able to do all the things that you can do, and you're not going to be able to do the things that I can do. Each of us has a particular bent. Okay? Your abilities lie in one place and mine lie in someplace else and yours lies someplace else. But every bit of who we are is necessary. Remember I gave you that example of the puzzle? That the whole world throughout the ages is like a giant puzzle. And in the end of days, each of us is going to see where we fit into that puzzle. So we have to keep trying and we have to keep doing so that we find our niche and we find our place in what we are supposed to do. Now, I also gave the example last time in if you say that, okay, I want to put tefillin on. I'm not keeping Shabbos and I'm not keeping kashrus and I'm not married but I'm a woman and I want to put tallis and tefillin on. It's not my mitzvah. It's not a do-good. Hashem didn't put us into this world to do what we want to do because it feels good for us. We have to make what's good for us feel good for us and be satisfied that is what we need to do. So if those things that we need to do, maybe we don't have to put on tallis and tefillin, but maybe we should say Tehillim whenever we can. Maybe we should say the Psalms, whether you say it in English or Hebrew doesn't matter. Maybe we say the Shema twice a day. Whether you say it in English or Hebrew doesn't matter. Maybe we have to say Shmona Esrei, the Amidah, with whatever language it's in, whatever it is. There are things that we have to do. Look at the things that we have to do and bring that into existence and make that a part and parcel of who we are, because that's what we can do in this world. And we use those opportunities that were prepared for us to get to the place that we can get to, and that will be in the world to come. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I think we do have a lot of work to do, but the work that we have to,
It's interesting because this gives you a incentive to go forward and do more.
and that's the beauty of learning. And that's the beauty of learning. And that's why we're learning this, to get that incentive to go forward, as you
To
said.
know that in the end will definitely be more
Recognized.
beneficial to us
Mhm.
to have it. I mean, even if we don't remember it, when we get to the world to come, it'll come out, right?
And we'll be able to deepen it.
Yeah.
So
Because I
keep,
mean, a lot I don't remember. I'll listen to it or read it and it sounds really good. And then,
And someone says, what did you just learn?
just like,
Give me a compliment.
okay.
just like when you watch a movie you've seen before and don't realize you've seen it before.
Exactly.